You're listening to
Catholic Sprouts,
the daily podcast for Catholic kids that strives to plant seeds of faith. Hey there, Sprouts. Today is Thursday, March 7th, 2019. It is also the feast day of two wonderful early Christian martyrs, Saint Perpetua and Saint Felicity. This week on the Catholic Sprouts podcast, we have been talking about some remarkable saints that will give us a little bit of motivation as we enter Lent. And we also have been talking about our church's transition from ordinary time into Lent. And of course, today we are in Lent. So, the saints that we are going to be talking about and drawing some inspiration from are the saints we are celebrating today, Saint Perpetua and Saint Felicity. Way back in the early days of the church, Saint Perpetua and Saint Felicity lived in northern Africa. And like places where the faith spread, the faith in Jesus Christ was not very well accepted. People that believed in Jesus were persecuted and even killed. Saint Perpetua and Saint Felicity were two of those people. What's interesting about these two is that they were mothers, and they have since been called the patron saints of mothers. At the time, Saint Perpetua was a noblewoman, meaning that her family was pretty rich and that they had a good position. Perpetua's father was very alarmed when she converted to Christianity and began to call herself a Christian. But Perpetua said to him, "Well, if I am a Christian, if I do love Jesus Christ, how can I be called anything else?" Her faith was the absolute foundation of her life. She was arrested, however, for being a Christian with several other women, and one of the other women that she was arrested with was a slave. Her name was Felicity. Both of the women were married at the time. Saint Perpetua had one child who was very young, and Felicity was 8 months pregnant when she was arrested. The women, along with several other women that were Christian and also arrested at the time, they were in prison for several months as they awaited trial, and they knew they were probably going to be executed. Saint Felicity worried most of this time that she wouldn't have her baby in time, and that she therefore wouldn't be able to face execution with the people she was imprisoned with. However, 2 days before execution, Felicity gave birth to her child, and her child was adopted by other Christians living in the area. The women were executed after they faced a rabid cow. The crowd thought this was so awful that they begged for the women to be killed quickly, and they were killed by the sword. Now, I know that this is a little bit of a brutal story, but an important thing for us to remember, we talk about martyrs a lot on the Catholic Sprouts podcast, people that died in the early church, people that died during World War II, all people that gave their lives because they refused to renounce their faith in Jesus Christ. Now, why do we talk about this so often? Well, we talk about Christian martyrs so much because it is a powerful reminder for us living in a comfortable and safe environment that our faith is so valuable and that we should never, ever compromise or give up our faith. Oftentimes, we're asked to be faithful in small ways, like someone is bad-mouthing the Catholic faith and we don't say anything, or we don't go to Mass when it's inconvenient because other people aren't going. These are small ways that we don't value or stand up for our faith. But look at the big ways. It would have been very easy for Saint Perpetua or Saint Felicity to simply pretend that they didn't believe in Jesus Christ and therefore save their lives and be able to live their lives with their children. But they knew that being bold and faithful to God was so important that they were willing to give their lives. So use these two women and the other Christian martyrs that we have discussed on the Catholic Sprouts podcast as motivation to be faithful to God in the big and the small ways. Stand up for your faith. Practice it boldly, even if it is inconvenient or makes you seem a little bit odd. Be brave, and this is my challenge for you today, my friends. I would like you to think about St. Perpetua and Felicity and to use their intercession to really realize the value of the faith that you have and to give you the strength to stand up for it and to even accept suffering because of it if need be.
That's it for Catholic Sprouts today. We'll be back tomorrow, but until then, continue to grow in your faith and truly sprout into the beautiful creation that God intended you to be. One final word to the grown-ups. Thank you so much for listening to the Catholic Sprouts podcast. I would like to invite you to join a special Facebook group just for those that listen to the Catholic Sprouts podcast. We will use this group to connect, to share resources around that week's theme, and simply celebrate raising future saints. To find the direct link to the Facebook group, simply check the notes for this podcast episode.